Bay. Live from downtown Mill Bay. Go, 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 go.
What are you doing?
And in,
There's no refills.
and Paris representative will hit. So we get up to here? Do we do this? Do we have anything written down there? Oh, okay. Then why don't I get a nice blank one? And we'll just.
Mention your phone. I can't find my my sheet thing.
That sounds unfortunate.
Yeah.
There's some up there if you want to grab it. Okay, then I am going to get you to draw one in a moment then, if we can do that last one. Because we need to do the overall structure. Okay. When we look at the piece of DNA, what it looks like, number one, we can see that there's a different type of bonding in each one. What's the difference in bonding between those two? Top and bottom. Yeah.
I don't know, aren't the A and T's only fit together because they have more like curvy shape, or the C and G's, the diagram they have like a...
Well, it's, you'll note, yeah, there is consistency. C and G's bond together, A and T bond together. The bonding part is right in there. What's the difference between the top and the bottom? Yeah.
It's, the top one uses 2 strands, but
Yeah.
the bottom uses 3.
Yeah. And those aren't strands, they're hydrogen bonds. But yeah, 2 strands versus 1 strand. A and T only have 2 hydrogen bonds, and C and G have 3 hydrogen bonds. We haven't done hydrogen bonding in terms of the chemistry section. They're not a full ionic or covalent bond. They occur when an area of a molecule is just like slightly positive, and another molecule is slightly negative, and you get this sort of light attraction. So it's not a full bond, but if you get enough of them together, they will hold stuff together. It's holding your paper together right now. That's why your paper will fall apart in water. Water has a lot of hydrogen bonding, so if you throw your paper in water, it disrupts all the fibers in your paper and it falls apart. So it's not a full bond. It's not going to break apart these things, which are full bonds, but in there. The overall structure we're looking at here then, 1 unit of DNA is here, and that is a nucleotide. It has a phosphate group, which is funny apparently. That is the sugar. And this area right there, let's do that there, that is the base. So those nucleotides, we can see that we have one
Extremely large.
nucleotide there, nucleotide there, nucleotide there, nucleotide there. We end up with this repeating pattern. And the repeating pattern, everything's the same. The sugar's the same, the phosphate's the same, the base changes. And that's the area in which you have the genetic code. So the order in which the A, T, C, G occurs, that's what we'll figure out, tells us what protein we're going to make. So this is it uncoiled. Take it, just twist it, you get the double helix. And then the last one's just a molecular model of what that would look like if you made it with like plastic pieces. I'm trying to get Ms. Allen to buy it for the classroom. It's $3,800 and $2,000 for shipping.
You should get everyone in the class to like sign that out.
Donate.
Yeah.
Donate.
Donate.
I'll come around with a hat later on and you'll just donate into it. If someone can calculate for $5,000 divided by
$5 suits, yeah.
20 people.
Get $5, you go to your
Yeah. Okay. Oh, no. Finish this off. A little bit of history. Mr. or Professor Chargaff in 1950 showed the nucleotides don't have a repeating pattern. It's not just ATCG, ATCG, AT. It's A, T, A, T, T, A, C, G, C, C, G, and then you get what could be a random pattern, but it's different all the time. So it's not just a simple repeating pattern. He also showed, for example, if I have 22% of A, if I know I have 22% A, what percent do I have of G? No. Although one of those numbers is 22, which one is 22? T. So we know that. What must C and G then be?
78.
Not 78.
What?
You're kind of the right track. Pardon?
88?
Nope. In the wrong direction.
Oh.
If this is 22% and that's 22%, what does the whole thing have to add up to? 100. What's left? So 28%, yeah. Each side is going to need to add to 50%. And so 28 plus 22 gives us our 50. And so if you knew one number of any one of them, you knew all the other numbers. And that's how we showed that also A bonded to T. That had to be the case if that was what was going on. Ooh. Didn't ask the question first. Wait till everybody steps. Writing it down?
Is that the person? Chargaff?
Mm-hmm. Mr. or Professor. Or Herr Professor Doctor. I don't think he's German though. Was he? Anybody still need it up? Go to the bench. Maybe we should go
Okay, that's good.
We're talking, we're talking. I have all the stuff written down.
there. Excellent.
Can I go back to here?
Yep. That way you're still trying to see. And if you went back there, it'd miss you too much. Good? Okay. Single nucleotide contains a phosphate. connected to a sugar. Connected to a nitrogenous base. And we're going to draw one of them. Rabbit. Go here. Excellent. Let's draw that. So, I'm going to highlight the different parts. Got that. And we've got that. And how do we know that ribose is a sugar? In the name. It's ribose. What part of the name tells us it's a sugar? Pardon? The Os, yeah. You've heard of glucose, and then of course table sugar is sucrose. Anytime you hear os in biochemistry, you're talking about a sugar. So ribose tells you it's a sugar. And this is the nitrogenous base. And you can tell it's nitrogenous because of all the nitrogen, hence nitrogenous. Maybe we should switch here as well. Sure. Phosphorus there has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it's also not showing you the lone pairs. Yeah. Even though this is a more complicated diagram than I'm about to show you, it is also simplified. But yeah, phosphorus can break the octet rule. And in terms of standards in drawing for biochemistry, every time you see a point, I think I've mentioned this before, what element is there? Because they're not just points into nowhere, they're connected to something. Does anyone know? No? Yeah? Carbon, yeah. Biochemistry is essentially carbon chemistry. And if you're in biochemistry, you get tired of drawing carbon all the time. So every time you make a point, that just is this. So every one of these is a carbon. If it isn't a carbon, then they draw it in. So all these are carbons as well. And there is the most common element is not drawn at all. Does anybody know what's missing? Because biochemistry is carbon and something chemistry. Hydrogen. So carbon has 4 bonds. So every time you see carbon and it has less than 4 bonds, you have to draw as many hydrogens as you need. So this carbon has 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, that one's fine. 1, 2, 3, 4, that one's fine. 1, 2, 3, that one has a hydrogen on it. This one has 1, 2, so it would have 2 hydrogens on it. This one has 1, 2, 3, so it would have another hydrogen. You don't have to draw all those on, but just so you know, it's simplified to make it a little easier to see the structure. But the hydrogens and carbons are there. Organic chemistry is carbon chemistry. When you say something's organic, you say it's made out of carbon, unless you're inside a grocery store, and then it means something else. I did work for a turkey farm, And on one particular day, someone was sick, so I had to work the phones rather than the barns. And somebody called me and said, "Are your turkeys organic?" And I said, because I'm in my 3rd year of university, all turkeys are organic. Except for like the salt in their blood, I guess. And then she said, "No, are they organic?" And I said, "Yes, all turkeys are organic." And then later on I learned that means something different. Yeah.
Are there also hydrogens connected to oxygens and phosphate? Oh, it's like a single line of O.
Oh no, because they have a negative charge, so it's a single bonded O. Yeah. Yeah. Now, I wanted you to see that diagram and draw it at least once so that you can appreciate the complexity that's going on beside. The nitrogen space is larger, it has nitrogen in it, but for 99% of the time in biology, here is how you're actually going to be expected to draw it.
This stuff.
Draw the ribose sugar, and then you go phosphorus. Actually, probably should make that a little smaller. Phosphorus. And then you just draw in the nitrogenous base, you label it, and what you label it with is either A, C, T, or G, or whichever type that it is. And that's all we're really going to expect you to do. They are the same structures. This is just an even simpler, simpler way of representing it. So you will see that. Whoop, come on. Give me my highlighter. So, same structures, simpler drawing. If I ask you to draw a nucleotide, that is perfectly acceptable. But I want you to have drawn this once so that you're aware of it and aware of more of the real structure. In fact, some biologists shamelessly will even get rid of the O and just make a hexagon, like that O doesn't exist. It wounds me as a biochemist. But they're biologists. And they don't want to know the chemistry. And we did mock them as they were getting cancer. Okay. Overall, the nucleotides bond, I meant to not have that in there because this actually goes here. You can draw an arrow if you want. Nucleotides bond down there. And also, this whole thing is a base pair. This would be G, I think. That would be C. I think that one's T, and that would be A. Once again, what's the difference between the two? Yep. Double hydrogen bond and triple hydrogen bond. And we need bonds that are slightly weaker so that we can unzip it and actually read it. So they're held together, but it's very easy for an enzyme to come in, slice them apart, read the data, make the protein, and then move on. Now, I've been told by your meta teacher that you know the names of all 4 of them, and you made it last year. You cut out pieces of paper, you put them together.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know the names, I just put the letters together. Also, mine was very good.
Okay. So, first one, what is the one that starts with A? Zach.
It said it's a
Part of this is a test if people can read. Julian Chan.
Yeah.
What is T?
Thionine.
Cyanide?
Thionine.
Thionine.
Okay, well.
Thymine. If you don't remember, where are we getting the words from?
Wait, thymine or
Thymine.
what was thymine? Like thionide.
Why do you say thionide?
I didn't see there was an M.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Liam?
Cytosine.
Cytosine. And, oh, I do need to do attendance. Oliver, last one.
Guanine.
Guanine. And can anybody remember, it's not on here at all, or have an uneasy feeling that, wasn't there a fifth one?
Yeah.
What was the fifth one? Do you remember? Even if you don't remember, does anybody know why it's not here?
Wait, if there's a fifth one, what would it go with?
It would go with adenine.
So it would go with the, like a 3?
No. It is only found in RNA, and it replaces thymine.
Okay.
So it's one you find, the reason it's not here is because we're talking about DNA. But when it gets read and transcribed into RNA to take the message away, RNA doesn't have thymine. It has uracil instead, and that's what it uses in place of it.
Okay.
And this entire pairing, G to C, and make sure I got it read, T to A, let's see, thymine should have the 6, A is that one, yep, and then G, that one, see, this pairing is known as Chargaff's rule. So these bases always match. If they don't match, you run the risk of introducing a mutation because that will carry forward. So you need them to match. And I did it there, but I left this space to do it again, so why not? Now, there's a variety of ways to remember this. The first two I'm going to tell you are the ones that students told me. The first way is Colgate. And I think I just interrupted someone that was either about to ask a question or tell me one. Was someone about to tell me one? Students who use this, they C, then G, then T, and A, so they go in row. Sure, it's a bit corporate because you're using a product. Does anybody else have a different one? The one another student liked is apple, tree, and car, garage. I have to hit that one more time. Go there. But that's not what I use. I'm like, why would you do that? You can just look at them and go, of course C and G go together. They're round. They would cuddle. You've got the big spoon and the little spoon, and they just fit together. That's lovely. And then you have like the A and the T. They're pointy. The A would just sort of lean over to the T, and they would cuddle as well. They're cuddle buddies. That's literally how I remember it. Everybody didn't seem to think that was very useful, so we came up with these as well. But if you want Mr. Neufield's method, cuddle buddies. Which doesn't help you at all, because that doesn't actually tell you how they're done. C goes with G, and A goes with T, obviously. Now, C and G and A and T are not opposites. Does anyone know what the word is for things that go together that aren't opposites? They're not like north and south of a magnet. Those are literally opposites. They are complementary. They go together. So it's known as complementary base pairing. Let's see. Going to give you a few minutes. We have a worksheet. You will have a quiz next week on the worksheet. First day back. So you will get to bring your worksheet to the quiz. It's not open book, but it is open worksheet. So am I going to ask you the exact same questions in the worksheet? No. But if you know the answers and you know why they're the right answers, i.e. you did the work and you understand it, then it should make it easy.
Can we write down our notes on the worksheet?
If you want to write information on there to help answer the questions, sure.
Maybe a test next.
If you write out all of your notes on there, you know, I mean, the quiz, this would be able to help you with that. But if you want to answer thoroughly, sure. So I'm going to give you some time. I posted it. Does anybody see it? Did anybody see it pop up in the notifications that it was posted? Yes, no. When's it due? Pardon? Due tomorrow. Do I expect you to hand it in tomorrow? No, because when I say it's due tomorrow, why do I do that? What am I going to post later in the week? The answers. So you can double check them. You can make sure you understand the material. Then next week, bring this to class. I'm going to have you staple it to your quiz. So I can see the work that you did before you wrote the quiz. You have time now to work on it? Give you a few minutes. And I can do tennis.
Do we have to spell the name of the bases correctly?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, there are students that have an IEP that spelling is more difficult, and
I just can't
you're one
spell.
of those. But on the other hand, spelling is just, if you're not one of those, spelling is just an act of remembering. You kept saying, what was it that you said instead of
Oh, it was. He had.
thionine?
I
Yeah,
had it-
instead of
I had it
thymine.
and instead
The
of-
problem is, the reason that's a problem is because thionine is a real thing. So if you spell it wrong, you may actually just be wrong, because you can actually, like, we're going to do the next section. There's chromosomes, chromatin, chromosomes, slight misspellings, and I don't know which word you mean. So it's always a good idea to spell it correctly. I'm more concerned about spelling chromosome and DNA and deoxyribonucleic acid correctly than I am about you spelling the correctly. Because, like, who cares? You make a spelling mistake on non-science words. But on the other hand, what will you have during your quiz next week?
Paper.
The worksheet. So if you make sure the correct spellings are on there, off to the races.
Is it like dio?
Section C, attendance.
I've noticed.
Andrews, working on the worksheet? Why don't you see a pen in your hand? You do have a pen in your hand.
Wow.
I didn't see you working, just staring. Do you have a question?
What?
Do you have a question? Do you need something to get you started?
I mean, I'm already started. I'm on question number 5.
Wow.
Good. Sorry.
Mr. Newfield,
My apologies for
I've
calling you out.
noticed that on your past couple tests, you haven't put the writing on the top.
Wow.
Oh, I I don't always. But has that been disappointing? I'll try and remember.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
And
Wait, where does it say? Wait, do you do it now?
Yeah, because this is an open workshop example. This is the example. We can use this worksheet for the example. Dioribo something.
dioribo?
What does the D stand for, DNA? It's something.
It's literally in your notes.
It is?
Well, that's what the worksheet's for, to make sure you go back, review,
Oh.
you know what it is.
Something nucleic acid. That's all I know.
It is something nucleic acid, yeah.
Label a sugar molecule.
Let's see. Okay. Esther's not back. We should have 17. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. We are missing one other person. Jojo.
Jojo's not back yet.
Ah.
Curses.
Is someone getting back in?
Yeah.
What's my monster?
That's what he told us. And he's like, I'm coming to school. I'm not going to school.
Next to Pablo.
Segment mentality. You know, I saw on TikTok
I'm sorry.
that 90% of CEO secrets when's the last time they did this?
Yo, what the hell? I don't know. What are you 7?
Yeah, the competition.
How do you get points? And how does the whole class have 133 then?
You need Noof to call you out. Yeah.
Wait, is that?
How does the whole class have 133?
Is it the points or something?
Yeah, but that doesn't seem to add up. Maybe it does. 5, 8, 4, 9, 8, 9. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. And everybody in the class has what? An average of,
7.
well, hold it. There's actually 18 people in the class. 18 times 7 is 126. That seems about right then. So our average is probably more around 8.
Some people drag the average down.
What?
Who does?
Some people.
I need, one of this is to look at, and like, if someone's been away in the last couple of days, then I can go, aha, I need to ask Riley more questions.
How do you get points? Is it just a geometry question?
When I press the button on here, and I have everybody's name,
Uh-huh.
and I go random, and it goes, oh, Vienna, I should ask you a question.
Okay.
Boom. But then if I don't, it just goes away.
Bro, all of them. What's a rock?
A run? It's like
Which part of it?
Also, if you volunteer questions, I may skip you when I do that, so then you don't get the
Oh,
point.
sugar
I
phosphate.
think that might have happened before
no,
Riley.
no, no.
No, it's the sugar and the
No. Or it's just the. I thought it was just an extra space.
I don't know. I thought you were putting the whole page. I thought you were putting like.
No, no, I thought it was just in the middle of it.
Jefferson said the middle.
Like, I mean, you could like.
No, I trust you.
Would you?
I trust you.
Yep.
For like the rung of the ladder, would you just consider like the middle bit? Like.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what's the rung of the ladder?
Just
The next.
Just the basis. And then the backbone is made of the sugar and the phosphate. Yeah. Often referred to as the sugar phosphate backbone.
Yeah, because it kind of looks like there's quite a bit of step on.
Yeah. I mean, it bends out a little bit. No, it's just a crooked ladder.
Oh yeah, just right there.
Okay,
I guess.
I'm going to ask you to stop what you're doing. Stand up. First day back, second class. Shake your knees. You're not used to 80-minute classes. You have a 5-minute break starting now. You grab a glass of water, go to the bathroom. We're going to do notes when you come back. Go into the structure of Dean. So if you need to go do something, do it now. 5 minutes. Gentlemen, I'm not moving you apart. I am moving Anders. He's whispering constantly, so loud I can hear you from the front. You're disturbing me. You're starting out. No, it doesn't matter what you're talking about. If you're disturbing me at the front, you're definitely disturbing me right behind me. But
If you stop doing that, like,
I mean, I came around. You were working. That's not the point.
it's just sweat.
Question, Anders? Oh, okay. I thought you were going to ask Pablo a question. Ooh. That's interesting. Ah, I've got to use that. Hmm. The what? The universe? Oh, like an astronomy section? Maybe, maybe not. It's an optional unit at the end. It depends on how much physics and everything else we get through. We didn't get to it last year. Depends. How come? You're really looking forward to it? Oh, okay. I like the unit, so I'm hoping we get to it.
Is it like, would it be not marked then?
If I don't teach it to you,
What?
it would not be marked.
But would it like be not marked if you taught it to us anyways?
Oh no, it would be marked. It depends on whether or not we have time for it. Well, you have to do chemistry, biology, and physics because those are also courses you take next year. Just like in chemistry 11, there's an optional unit at the end, which I love, organic chemistry, because my background is biochem. But if you don't get to organic, it doesn't matter. It's always put at the end because if you even take chemistry in university, you often don't even see organic till third year. You have to do all the inorganic first. So it's not quite as critical. Yeah, the BC curriculum is odd in some ways.
Yeah.
We don't cover gas laws in Chem 11, and like every university will expect you to have done it. We try and squish it in if we can. Sometimes at the expense of other things because of that.
Oh yeah, it is.
It's just like it goes to TG.
Oh, it's what? 31.
I went to school when I was in Edinburgh. I went to see my friends and I took 3 classes. It was so like, the class was like 40 minutes. So it's way too.
We used to have 52-minute classes.
Yeah?
I like them.
If,
It was enough time to teach 2 things,
I think I would like that as well.
and then you get to go to your next class. And so it's like you had a little brain break all the
How
time.
many classes would you have though? Like 5 or 6?
You'd have 5 classes a day.
That's
You
what-
still ended it
that's
by
what I had.
1:15, 1 or 1:15.
I would prefer that.
That's what I had.
Yeah.
Also,
Yeah.
we had,
Would you really want to have Spanish if you
I would take that. Oh my god.
You'd have, you,
we
sorry?
had more classes a day, but we ended at like 3. It's lost.
Ooh, yeah,
But each class was 40 minutes.
yeah.
But when did you start school?
Like 8, 15.
Those same as us.
Yeah, but he has like you also have lunch break and stuff.
You're going to elementary schools, they have like recess.
Yeah. Dude, we should get a 5-minute break every class. Like this really helped me like calm down and make me feel. It's just a little suggestion.
It is nice,
I like the idea.
Oh,
We should
but it's 11:11. We're on a minute past. Okay, let's get started. That's 5 minutes, I believe. Okay, turn to this page. First skill testing question. Actually, why don't I use my random person color? Dun dun dun. Random. Julian GG.
That's why I got this one.
What is this area called inside the cell? The darker area inside every cell, the most important organelle. A hint is it's also the center of an atom. We use the same word for both.
You got this one, you got this one. Go on. Go on.
Another hint is it starts with an N. Yeah, nucleus. This shows a variety of nuclei in cells. Nuclei in Latin just means a center area. So both chemistry and biology have taken the term to mean a very similar thing. So that it's not related to atomic nuclei. However, the nuclei here, you can see the cells in a variety of processes of cell division, depending on which cell it is. We often do these, if you've done it in class. Did you do an onion root tip last year in class? Make a slide, see the different cell divisions? You did mitosis last year? Yes. No? So if you didn't do that, we often use it like a root tip because they're actively growing, so you can see all the different stages. The chromosomes in mitosis being split apart or condensing or just open to the different areas. Julian, what are you doing? Please put those away. Remember, you have your magic pencil. Don't need to use his. The only exception, there is an exception. That is where you find DNA. If you're very clever, however, you might offer one other organelle. What other organelle has DNA in it? In the human cells. You use this to trace your maternal lineage. Because you only get this DNA from your mom. Pardon?
Hair?
Nope. Hair actually doesn't have any DNA. It's not a cell. Hair is a secretion. It's actually a form of solid mucus.
Ooh.
Yucky.
It's just a protein wound together. So you can think of your hair, you're like, oh, you have nice solid mucus today.
Wait, so if
Hand,
so your
hand. Yes, Julian.
so your hair is just like different for everyone, or is it like
It's a secretion. It's actually the proteins are wound around each other to make hair, and it's secreted from a cell. So it's a product. It's not growing cells in itself. It's just a secretion, like sweat or mucus. And the protein is kind of similar to mucus in a way. Just the proteins in mucus are put together a little bit differently, and then you get something that's sort of blobby with a lot more water. This is also why if you buy shampoo that has like vitamin E in it to make your hair grow better, your head is not a lawn. It does not absorb nutrients through your skin. You'd have to eat the shampoo for that vitamin E to do you any good. Now, if you're doing it to moisturize, maybe that'll do something, but it's not going to make your hair grow any different because that depends on the cells and what nutrients are getting. It might make the hair softer, adding oils to it and things, but that's about it. So if you don't know, what is the powerhouse of the cell? Mitochondria. Also, the mitochondria has DNA. Known as mDNA. Oops. And that's because mitochondria, I'd probably get in trouble from this from a wet biologist, someone that works with like fleshy things. Mitochondria are considered an organelle, but I would almost consider it symbiosis. It is not coded for by your DNA. You don't make it. It makes itself. It duplicates. It's its own organism that invaded cells millions of years ago and just formed a functional relationship. It provides ATP. You give it sugar, but it divides itself. If you want to find out more about your maternal lineage, you only inherit your mitochondria from your mom because you inherited all your organelles from your mom because that's where you got the egg from. Or whoever provided the egg in the future, that might be different. Because you could take someone's egg, pull out the chromosomes, and then put in different chromosomes. So there are mitochondrial diseases where the mitochondria don't work properly. So one of the cures for that is to get someone else's egg, but take out the chromosomes and put your chromosomes in it, and then you've cured that. You've given it new mitochondria. Person's now fine; they don't have the disease. We can't quite do the next one yet, but theoretically, we could take like chromosome 1 from Julian, and chromosome 2 from other Julian, and chromosome 3 from Riley, and chromosome 4 from me. And we could go through the whole class and just take out one chromosome, a different one from everybody, as long as we got up to, well, we need 48 in total, so we'll combine classes, put them all in a single egg, and then grow the egg.
Try that.
We would then have a child in which all of you were the parents, because you all donated some genetic material. The only reason you only have 2 parents is only 2 biological people donated half the chromosomes. But we could mess that up a little bit if we wanted to.
Is that like the last class that you said that you could like change something about your child, like change the DNA?
Oh, CRISPR actually edits the genes themselves.
Is this like the same?
So,
thing, or is it-
no, CRISPR would be like going into your chromosomes and like rewriting a tiny section. This is donating whole chromosomes.
Okay.
We'll get to that in a moment, and it might become a little bit more clear probably on the next slide. Now, it's found in the nucleus. The exception to this is during cell division. What is cell division called? Starts with an M. Mitosis. What's the other one? Meiosis. Meiosis is making the sex cells, gametes, sperm, and egg. Mitosis, or as I like to call it, mitoses, because that's how you make your toesies, because they grow. You grow because you make more cells through mitosis or mitoses, and that's how you get bigger. You don't get bigger because your cells are bigger. You get bigger because you made more cells. This is why if you are tall and large like I am, you have an increased risk of cancer. I literally have more cells, which means I have more tickets for one of them to go wrong and develop something that it shouldn't have. So the more cells you have, the larger you would be. There's a hand vaguely over here.
Oh no,
Yep.
we
No.
just
Figured it out?
You're less chance to get cancer.
DNA in the human cells is not. Oh, did you just high five or something? Well done. It's not a long continuous strand. I did make the joke the other day that if you, not really a joke, but if you took all the DNA out of your cell, laid it out, it'd be 2 meters. We have to pack that. But it's not one continuous strand. It's in a bunch of chromosomes. And of course, the joke was take all of your cell's DNA, laid out end to end 2 meters each, and you would get something in which you would die, because you would have no more DNA. But you actually have 23 pairs of separate strands, or 46 total. 23 pairs, we like to phrase it, because you get one from your biological mom and one from your biological dad, unless we do the genetic editing thing that I mentioned before, in which every one of you is going to provide a chromosome, and then you have like 46 parents.
we should do that.
We should do that. That would be a fascinating experiment.
For it. I think there's that TikTok for it then.
Can you imagine the TikToks from that? I found out growing up that I have 46 parents.
No, it's like this TikTok thing
We're
where,
talking about how we don't want to pay
where-
child support.
where it's like you are not the father. You know? But
You're the father, and you're the father, and you're the father, and you're the mother, and you're the... That would go on and on and on. So these form 23 pairs.
wait, so would you be able to tell that everyone is the mother and the father, or would it?
It wouldn't be something, like if you just sent it in for genetic testing, they would say, no, you're not, because they're looking for a 50% relationship. But if they knew that in advance, then they'd be looking for a single chromosome relationship, and then they might be able to tell. They'd have to separate the chromosomes and then compare them individually.
Okay.
But yeah, that would be possible.
Has it done that before?
No. We are close to being able to cure a mitochondrial disease by taking the chromosomes out of an egg that has good mitochondria and putting new chromosomes in using donated eggs. We are very close to that, which means we are kind of close to doing that with individual chromosomes, but we can't quite do it yet. Probably good, given that's something I immediately want to do. I mean, I would just have to work at a fertility clinic, and then I could add just a single one of my chromosomes to every egg, and then I'd be everybody's daddy. That sounded wrong as soon as I said it, but on the other hand, I mean, famously, there is the world record, I think, for the person with the most number of children is actually by someone who's currently facing charges because they actually ran a fertility clinic and they stopped getting chromosomes from their usual sources and just started using their own. And so they're the father of hundreds of children. And not because they wanted to be, just because it was cheaper.
Wait, yeah, what, is that like not allowed or something?
No, because you've signed a contract in which normally what you do if you have a fertility issues, you may go into a fertility clinic and you will pick the father.
Yeah.
It may be anonymous, but they'll say like they have this color eyes, this color stuff, and they'll have like a breakdown. And if you say, well, I want that one, and then you just get like the doctors,
Yeah.
who is like not anywhere near that description, then yeah. And then you run into a lot of other problems because all of these children now are related, obviously, but they're near the fertility clinic. Probably they're growing up next to each other in the same school, dating, may form relationships, and they don't know their biological siblings.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty weird.
Half siblings, but nonetheless, there's all sorts of risks with that. So yes, it is but the crime is actually breaking the contract.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nobody's told them.
Account for each time he did it. So, yeah.
How many times did he do it?
Hundreds. I think it was above 500 children that that person has. Yeah.
I was happy with the world record.
But I have to double check. He might have already been charged and faced charges. He also might not be the record leader. It was last time I checked, but where was that? Why is this? What happened such that? There we go. Okay. These form 23 pairs. They are identical in genes. They're not identical in which types of genes. You get one from your mom and one from your dad. So, for example, I got a gene from my dad that would have been blue for blue eyes. And then I got a gene from my mom that obviously was also blue for blue eyes because I happen to have blue eyes and blue eyes are recessive. But my mom has brown eyes, so she has two genes, probably one brown, probably one blue, and I inherited the other one. However, just so you are also aware, using dominant recessive, which we're going to do later, only works for what we call Mendelian genes. There are some genes that correspond to that. It was the first type we discovered. But something like eye color actually turns out to be controlled by more than one gene. So it is possible to have two parents that have blue eyes, which is recessive, and have a child who has brown eyes, and nothing weird happened. The father is indeed the father, and all those types of things. Eye color is not the greatest one because there are some exceptions. It just often follows Mendelian genetics, so people have used it as an example for ages and ages, but you should know it's a little bit more complicated than that. Okay, the human chromosome. So here's where we get to our little baby, or embryo, and not embryo, zygote, no, before the zygote, fertilized egg, where we could take out the genes and add one from everybody. We pair the genes up, and they're numbered from 1 to 22. And then pair 23 is just referred to as the sex chromosomes. And how do they know pair 1 is pair 1? Like, it's not like they come with little numbers on them. In what order are they arranged? Yep. Yeah, they're arranged by size, length. 1 is literally the biggest, 2 is the second biggest, then third, fourth, fifth, sixth. Because when they first were trying to arrange these and which chromosome was responsible for what, you're just looking under a microscope. So they arrange them by size. They also don't come this way in that students are like, when do you see them like this? And the answer is you don't. You see them like this, and probably like this. And then what you do is you blow up this image, and then you cut them out, and then arrange them in order to look at them. And you keep looking at cells until you can see every single one of them, and you just literally cut them out to look at them. And most of the time, the DNA is just not in chromosomes. It's just sort of spread out like this. This is only during cell division.
What like tools do they use to cut them? Like,
Oh, microscope, just a regular light microscope.
no, but like
Like the,
does the person that's looking cut them?
so in the olden days, you would just print it or make a photograph and physically cut them out and then line them up. Or nowadays, what you do is you just take a digital photograph, you go, boop. So you have a high resolution, you took a picture through your light a microscope, and then you just digitally like cut, paste, and arrange them.
Like, they cut open.
Oh, no. They cut the pictures, and then, so when they make a real picture, which we have on here, so that's an idealized version. This is where someone has actually taken a bunch of cells and cut out the different pictures and then lined them up so you can see them properly. This is known as a karyotype. I've made one of these. And they didn't allow me to do it on a computer. You couldn't take the image and then cut it. I had to sit down with photographs and like cut them out. I think nowadays they would allow you to do that, but at the time they didn't have the software couldn't put it on someone else's computer. The pictures were too big. I am of the age where they were still using floppy disks. Image taken during cell division, known as a karyotype, has been used to diagnose disease because there's something wrong with a chromosome, a little too short, a little too long. You have an extra one. There's a variety of diseases in which you can have a different number of chromosomes. And we notice now, we have given you a genetic, why is this Y way over here? It should be there. We've given you a genetic male. That doesn't mean morphologically it's guaranteed to be male. There is some conditions. For example, what it does if you cut out a ton of the genes, you just have a Y chromosome, you end up not secreting as much testosterone, which means your body will often form into male parts. However, if you have a genetic abnormality in your cell receptors that just don't respond to testosterone, then you will just grow up female. Morphologically, you'll look female. Biologically, everything will look female. You'll probably think you're female, and you are female for all intents and purposes. There's a high risk you'll be infertile, and that's when most people discover that they have this condition. They're trying to have kids. They go to a fertility clinic. They do a genetic test, and they go, by the way, you have a Y chromosome. And then they're like, whoa, am I male? And it's like, well, no. Your body just didn't get the signals of testosterone to change different parts or change your brain or do anything. So you can grow up in a variety of different ways. No, on average, if you have a Y chromosome, it just increased testosterone production at just the right times in which you'll develop male primary and secondary characteristics. A female genetic would just have two X chromosomes, would just be two of these. Now, to belabor the point, you would get one chromosome from mom, biological mom, and one chromosome from dad. And you may think I'm being a little silly to keep emphasizing bio, but then I find people who didn't pay attention in science class, and there was a court case 3 years ago in which a man took his girlfriend to court because he married her, and then it turned out the children weren't his. She had the children before they met. He thought that when they got married, they became biologically his. He did not pay attention in science. I was going to say science 10, but I would say science 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. I don't know how he thought that. So there's a
Wait,
lot
so
of
he thought-
education that needs to go.
Wait, so
Yeah.
the children were born already.
Yeah. Then he met her.
Then he met her.
Then they got married. And then he insisted on a DNA test, which, I might add, she said yes to.
Oh.
I would have divorced him right then and there. But anyway, maybe she was just confused why he wanted it. But then he took her to court because those kids should be mine. And the court is like, what are you talking about? Now, humans have 46 or 23 pairs. One from mom, one from dad. A horse has 64. So how many pairs do they have?
How many parents?
How many pairs?
32.
32. A donkey has 62. How many pairs do they have? 31 pairs. Now, if you mate a horse and a donkey, you get a mule. How many chromosomes will it have? Well, if you made a horse and a donkey, how many must it have? Yeah.
Would,
No.
Two horses
Yes.
and donkeys.
would it depend
Each other's
on which gender the horse and donkey?
Oh, I think yes, because if you do it the other way around, you don't get a mule. You get something called a hinny, but the point is the same.
63?
63. How many pairs?
60.
1.5.
It's not really 31 anymore.
31 and an extra. It doesn't work. And so when a mule undergoes meiosis, it can't have viable sex cells because it's not going to undergo meiosis properly. There's going to be one missing. It's a random amount from the horse and donkey. This, by the way, is an incredibly rare thing to happen. Most species, if you have a different number of chromosomes, you do not get viable offspring. That is a way that speciation can happen. If you have a section in which you have a different number of chromosomes, they're not interbreedable. It just turns out that the horse and the donkey are so very, very closely related that you do get an infertile. So a mule is sterile because you don't have pairs.
Wait, Mr. Neufeld?
Yeah?
So, if a human, which is 46, has offspring with someone who's 40, an animal that's 48?
So let's do that. A human
Remember what's 48?
has 46. A chimp has 48. And there is a famous chimp, I think it was known as Charlie. Charlie, if I remember the name right, I could be wrong, was at a zoo. People noticed that Charlie was a little odd. Charlie was relatively hairless compared to other chimpanzees they had, liked to walk around on his hind legs, enjoyed particular TV shows, had preferences like people over other chimpanzees, and just had a variety of behavior that made people go, this is a little weird. Is Charlie a human-ape hybrid? Did Charlie's mom and some human dad get together at some point? And the answer is no, that's actually completely impossible. The problem is, once again, if you had a hybrid, quote unquote, how many chromosomes would it have? 47. And that would not work. Chimpanzees and humans are too far apart genetically. The genes actually don't match up quite right. And that extra chromosome would ruin it. The eggs are always going to be infertile. They won't, not infertile, they just won't develop. It'll get rejected. This is actually an exception to the general rule. The fact you even get a mule and this works is mind-bogglingly lucky. This just doesn't happen. They actually genetically tested Charlie eventually, just because news stories would come out, and you'll still see it on the internet, that there's this ape that they think might be part human. And the answer is always, no, it's not. It turns out not to be a chimpanzee. It's something called a bonobo, which is a type of chimpanzee that is specific to another area of the world. They do have slightly less hair. Chimpanzees and bonobos do naturally walk on their hind legs more often sometimes, and they are not actually related.
So is it possible for a human and another like animal to like have a
No.
baby?
The further apart, no. Again, the whole thing behind a species is that they can't interbreed, and the further you are, you aren't. Now, have we? And the answer is, we as a human species contain Neanderthal genes. And one of the theories as to why they went extinct was not that we competed with them, but we essentially sexed them to death. In other words, when Neanderthals and early Homo sapiens met, they just had sex with them so often that all the children just became Homo sapiens. We outnumbered them.
Oh,
Yeah, we just bred them out of existence.
okay.
If you're Northern European, you have more Neanderthal genes than anybody else. Northern Europeans, Scottish, just seem to have a high amount. And they've actually traced which genes are Neanderthal. They found a Neanderthal gene, and they're like, wait a minute. This was in a Neanderthal bones. They actually were able to sequence it. And they're like, let's see if we can find them. And they genetically tested everybody in the local town. They found someone that was a match for one of the chromosomes in the local school teacher. So genetically related to this Neanderthal ancestor. We definitely know that humans and Neanderthals intermingle. But they're a very, very close relation. Yeah.
So like, you said like the mules, they can't like,
Yeah.
like they're infertile because
Yeah.
of like chromosomes. What if like one of them had like a rare genetic disease that like took one away or gave an extra one to them?
If you could play around with it and maybe make one, that right now what you're saying is like, let's do an experiment. You have to start messing with it and finding out. Maybe. And then you'd have something with the right number of chromosomes, and as long as I could keep it going, maybe. For example, if this is true, how did humans and chimpanzees, like at one point, we have a common ancestor that had 48 chromosomes. How did we get 46? I think it's chromosome like, in the chimpanzees, like 1 and 3 or something, fused together. And we've actually sequenced it, and one of our chromosomes, I think it's our chromosome, it is chromosome like 3 or 2. If you sequence it, it corresponds exactly to 2 separate chromosomes in the apes. So the ends fused. There are a variety of conditions in which you can have an extra chromosome or be missing a chromosome because they fuse. In not every case is that group of people infertile. So what is the most famous example of having an extra chromosome? Down syndrome. Not all people who have Down syndrome are infertile. And you can imagine a situation in which there is, I don't know, some worldwide disaster and a group of people who have Down syndrome are trapped in a small valley and have to band together to survive. They would have viable offspring, and evolution would very quickly take care of all the regulatory processes that are, inhibiting certain areas of development, and they'd probably be reasonably successful. Evolution is fairly bloody. People who don't make it are just going to die and not leave offspring. The ones who do leave offspring are being successful, and they would have more chromosomes than we do. They would very quickly become a different species, perhaps. So these events could happen, but the only reason that would work is because they're still basically, they are human, and so even though a different number of chromosomes, it still might work, just like the donkey and the horse are very closely related. But between a human and like a more distant ancestor, or a modern thing that had a more distant answer, the answer is almost never. But if you want to start pulling chromosomes out and trying to get it to work in the mule, that's just, go get yourself a genetics lab, tell me how it goes. Yes?
So if a mule had offspring with 65 chromosomes, would it make a horse?
65?
Yeah.
Horse is 64.
Yeah, but 63 and 65.
Oh,
Would that not make 64, which is a horse?
Oh, 64 plus extra. But remember, a lot of those genes also came from the donkey. Like half the genes in the mule are not horse genes. So it's not just the number of chromosomes, it's which genes you have.
I just want to see.
Yeah. I mean, there is currently a,
Circle, bro, they're gonna
there is someone who has proposed a plan to bring the woolly mammoths back.
Yeah, it's,
You just take the nearest related elephant. You take, when we sequence, we find woolly mammoth flesh in the tundra. Woolly mammoths were walking around when the Egyptian pyramids were being built. They're in human history. They're not that old. So we could go grab some of their flesh, sequence their DNA, make some chromosomes, and then just take an egg for a fertilized egg for a mammoth and put in like, I don't know, 2 of them. Get something that's a little woolly mammothy, grow it. That will be the new mom, so it's a little closer. Take some eggs, add some more woolly mammoth, and just keep doing that until you get woolly mammoth. And they'll be back right in time for the Arctic and Antarctic to have 0 place left because of global warming for them to actually exist in.
so they're gonna make them, and then they're just.
And then they're just all going to die.
Why do we want woolly mammoths?
There is a reasonable, it's actually getting beyond theory, not like the colloquial theory, beyond hypothesis. There is some thought that currently our Arctic would have a more robust ecosystem if there were woolly mammoth around. They do work in digging up things and stuff that actually improves the biodiversity of the Arctic. Their death actually probably was a bit of a disaster. As humans, we probably hunted them to death, is what we think. We found them and we went, ooh, tasty, and we ate them all. Yes?
I don't mind. It was the same question that Julian had with Down syndrome. Or what about, but what if, what if the mule had Down syndrome and he had 64 chromosomes, so he was actually just a horse?
Chromosomes aren't the number of chromosomes don't indicate what species you are. It's also what those genes are, and half of them came from a horse and half of them from a donkey. So it's still part donkey.
be like a fly, bro.
And you can have, there are diseases where you have an extra chromosomes and you don't. Like Down syndrome was one example. There's other ones where like you might not necessarily notice until later on in life when you end up having like heart and lung problems because the extra expression of some genes just means they didn't develop quite right. And then in every other case, you didn't notice until you're in your 20s. Okay, in order to form chromosomes, DNA, next page, must be densely packed. So we're going to start off with the DNA double helix. Julian and Julian. We take DNA and we wind it around proteins known as histones in order to pack it tighter. I'm going to highlight all the words that you need to know. Which is most of them. Oh, sorry, I forgot one. There we go. Nope, it really doesn't want you to know that one. There we go. Okay. I highlighted loop in a different color because you don't have to know loop, but that's like a basic English word. Okay.
What's that say? Proteins? Is that
Proteins must be dense. DNA must be densely packed.
Must be densely packed.
is
The DNA double helix is wound around histone. The last thought is, why would winding something around something else make it denser as opposed to taking up more room? How could you pack something better because you add something?
I don't like that question.
Any of you sew?
Odd question. Thank you.
I used to in middle school.
If you wanted to pack a bunch of thread,
It's a good
Yeah.
feeling.
put it around a solid, you can pack it much tighter. Whereas if you had a bunch of loose thread, it would actually take up more space.
No, but actually,
So we need this finish for when?
I put the due date as tomorrow, but I'm not going to take it in tomorrow. When am I going to take it in?
I fell asleep and he did the same thing.
Quiz day.
Totally gets me wrong, I swear.
When's quiz
I
class?
go to sleep, he's like, do you really need
When's the quiz?
Next week.
Next week, end of the week. You will probably have 2 assignments on the quiz. So one of the assignments. If anybody would like a forest woodland creature as one of their stickers before they go.
Mr. Newfeld,
Yeah,
if
you
a
may.
down, if a person with Down syndrome reproduced to another person with Down syndrome,
Yeah.
would they, is it possible to be double, have another chromosome?
Yeah, then you create a new
Double
species.
down.
I don't actually know, because they have the wrong number of chromosomes. Wrong in the sense that it causes the effect.
Yeah.
You wouldn't necessarily make the effects worse,
Better.
but you might be able to get the offsprings might also have Down syndrome.
What if the what if the opposite?
Well, thank you.
Cancer.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Newfeld.
You're welcome. Oh, stop the. Oh, I took up way too